Well, that was a beatdown. The Browns beat down the Chicago Bears today. They fundamentally and soundly, on the defensive side of the ball, at the very least, destroyed the Bears. So there's a lot to talk about. It is a different situation than what we have last week, where all the questions were about Joe Woods. No questions about Joe Woods and his defense this week. But a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. But before I do that, I want to make sure I give a shout out to the Patreon Dog Check tier members. I'm going to start with Michael Matique, Michael Morales, Mark Kahn, Max Haymaker, Drake, Nick Merrick, Mike Labra, Wesson Megan, D.A., and Jay. Greg Ehlers, Austin Bolin, Easley Bash, Joe Hart, Gabriel Wilson, Fred Pratt III, David Valtiara, Relentless Buck, Chunt, Rex Kaufman, Kevin Johnston, Cleveland Cart, Matt H., Sign Sheets, Gemini, Lewin Freeman, Fight Dirty 74, Yo-Yo, Matt Lloyd, Paul Wilcox, Hundo Magnifico, Kyle Stouffer, Lukey from Munich, Deveroff, J Guy 101, Musty Taco, Joe Bobby, Brad Cowboy, Dylan W., James McGinley, Arendal, Chad Gimme, David Maldonado, Dylan Hill, Josh Bendor, Jaleel Salim Jr., Mark M., Stuart Moore, Cleveland BCI, Robert Jermaine Jr., Dave Mike May, Andrew Hirsch, Curtis Bear, Batman, Barack Kumar, John Albert, Beerman069, Masayua Buzzer, Roland James Nemo, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Rivert, Sean Barron, Gagos Pisano, Corporal Nick Lopez, Dom Gazzola, Nick Nasty, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Christian, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Billy Moose Gentry, Austin Z, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, Dog Pound Kai, Lydia, Jesus Serrano, Alexander Davis, Chris Phones, Picktown Brownsbacker, Max Nilikenko, Mark Khan, Max Aldojo, and Water Bear Marketing. Again, guys, thank you so much for doing that. And also, if you don't want to miss any of the live streams that I do, please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on a single stream. Now, let's get into the video. So let's just start with the star of the day. That's Myles Garrett. 4.5 sacks. He had 4.5 sacks today versus the Chicago Bears. Impressive, man. Incredibly impressive day for Myles Garrett. He could have legit probably had like 7 sacks in this game, like being realistic about it. He only had 4.5, I know, right? But it was an insane day. They had no answer for Myles Garrett. They had no answer for when it came to chips. They had no answer to what they were going to do to him. Jadeveon Clowney got involved. This whole defensive line played well. JOK played really well. This was a defense's day to shine. Now, there are going to be people who say, hey, it's only because they're up against a rookie quarterback. It's only because they are up against a bad offensive coordinator. But let's be real. Last week, they were up against a rookie quarterback and a bad offensive coordinator, and they didn't look as good. So something obviously changed. I don't know if that was like a major schematic change. I think it was more or less the defensive line just decided that they wanted to play better, and they played much better this week than they did in previous weeks. And that made a big difference there, because from what I could see by taking a cursory look over the broadcast camera, it didn't look like they were disguising more than they were the other weeks. It didn't look like they weren't in base. It didn't look like they were blitzing much more than they usually do. So it didn't look like they were doing anything that's that much different. It just looked like they were just executing a hell of a lot better. And when you execute as well as they did today, it don't matter what scheme you're running, you're going to be successful. Myles Garrett was in the chest of Justin Fields like within a second. I think the official number was less than a second that Justin Fields had to throw the ball. Like it was like 0.78 was the time to throw for Justin Fields. Incredible number for this defensive line. And then you look at some of the other players. I felt like all the linebackers played well. Malcolm Smith did. Mac Wilson played well. He almost got an interception in this game. And then JOK needs to start. He needs to start. He needs more snaps. He needs to play more, because every time he's on the field, he shines. He looks great. He looks excellent. He looks ready. I don't know what they're waiting on now. I know he's a young player. They don't want to get him in there and make him do too much early, but I'm ready to see him with full starts, with full snaps, and ready to get him deeply involved in this defense, because he is spectacular, and the defense plays much better when he's out there. He's excellent in coverage, and he is a monster going downhill when it comes to blitzing or stopping screens. JOK is just excellent in those areas. So having him at that will linebacker position for more snaps, I think, was a big boost. He has great instincts. On that play where he got a half a sack there with Myles Garrett, he kind of just made a call there based on what he saw in the RPO, and he was right. So his instincts are really good. He's so quick. He shook off Jason Peters on a block to get to a screenplay behind the line of scrimmage. He's excellent. Jadeveon Clowney continues to look really, really good. He got, 2 sacks today, I believe, or 1.5 sacks. I don't know how they're going to tally that up, but he got back there twice. He continued to make plays in the run game. Jadeveon Clowney is as advertised. He is looking very good. The pressures are there, the TFLs are there, and the sacks are there. So everything's good on that front with Jadeveon Clowney. I felt like Malik Jackson played excellent today, got enough pressure to help the guys on the edges. Tech McKinley got a sack today, so that was awesome to see. And then the corners. Denzel Ward had a pretty good game for Denzel Ward. And then Greg Newsome, I felt like, played excellent. I think a spotlight needs to be shined on him more so than it has been, because I feel like he's been playing excellent football for a few weeks now, and nobody is really saying anything about it. I think he's been excellent, and I think a light deserves to be shined on him. I think it's almost a toss-up between who's our best corner at certain times because of how well he can play at a given moment. So hats off to Greg Newsome. He has adjusted, taken that starting job from Greedy Williams, and he ain't looked back since then. He's been excellent. I just want to tip the hat to Greg Newsome. I think he's been playing really well. John Johnson and the safeties really didn't have to do much. I know Ronnie Harrison got a sack. John Johnson, we didn't hear much from Grant Delpit either, just because they didn't have to do much. The ball wasn't going past 5 or 6 yards today. Honestly, the ball wasn't getting thrown a ton today just because the Browns were back there almost on every drop back pass attempt. Again, they smothered the Bears. The Bears had like 1 net passing yard. And what that means is that when you subtract the sack yardage that Justin Fields took in this game from the passing yards that he had, it came out to 1 yard. That's not good for Justin Fields. Justin Fields, I believe, had a QBR of like 5.6. Just a dominant performance. They did not get any touchdowns. They barely got yards on the drives that they did get any points. It was because the Browns had penalties. There was one awful defensive pass interference call, in my opinion, that happened on an interception that John Johnson got. He put his hand on the back of Allen Robinson. He did not push off, but they said it was a push off, and they called the interception back and gave the Bears the ball at like the 5-yard line, which they turned into a field goal. So the defense ain't a single negative thing anybody can say about the defense after this week. They did their thing. The players played well. Joe Woods got them motivated. I don't know exactly how much he was involved in the game planning just because I haven't looked at the tape yet. But on a cursory look, he did something right because they didn't look good against worse offenses against a worse offense last week when Davis Mills was in there, right? They let Davis Mills score a touchdown last week. They come up against the Bears, who are a better offense than, the Davis Mills Texans, and they play lights out. Like, Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Davis Mills. They have better wide receivers than the Texans do. And the offensive line, it's a bit of a toss-up there between the Texans and the Bears offensive line. It just looked awful, the Bears offensive line, just because of how much Myles and the defensive line dominated today. But that's all excellent news. The defense came out to play. Dominated. We got one of those crazy Myles Garrett games that we have never seen before. It was really nice to see. Jadeveon Clowney went off for 2 sacks. The whole defensive line, the whole defense got like 9 sacks in this game. This is what you want to see. This is the kind of domination on the defensive side of the ball that you would love to see. And this is where you can see the potential of this defense. So all great things, all great things. Now let's talk a little bit about the offense. Slow start to the day. They left some points on the board. And when you see the score, you see that the Browns won by 20, you're like, oh yeah, that was a blowout. It comes with the context that the Browns had 2 drives in which they were in scoring range, and they just decided not to kick a field goal and to go for it on 4th down. They didn't convert, and they still won by 20. So they gave up 2 drives at the beginning of this game where they could have had points. Did not take points, did not get the conversion, and still beat this team by like 20-something points. So that is how good the defense was, and that's how much better the Browns were than the Bears today. But the offense did come up against a little bit of a wall here against this Bears defensive front. They were pretty stout. They were really good against the run. They really shut down Nick Chubb quite well. They couldn't really stop Kareem Hunt. Normally it's the other way around, but it wasn't that way this week. Kareem Hunt really gashed them pretty good. So that was something that was happening. Baker was a little off today. I wouldn't say he had a bad game because he didn't. Like, objectively, he just didn't have a bad game. But it was a little bit of an off game, right? We're used to seeing Baker hit some throws that he wasn't hitting today. There was one to Harrison Bryant. I think there was another one to Odell that he didn't hit, but he was still really good out there. Like, Odell was pretty good in his return. I think he got 5 receptions, 74 yards, which is pretty good work there. Donovan Peoples-Jones was really good, made a couple of great grabs along the sideline today. So the offense wasn't bad by any means. They were more than good enough to win the football game today. It just wasn't what we normally see out of this offense when they're clicking and going on all cylinders. The offensive line struggled a bit today, a lot more than you would want them to. I understand the Bears have a good defensive front, so it's not going to be domination every snap, but it still wasn't at the level of what you would like to see. Now, again, they had Blake Hance in there for a half. And they're banged up right now, and Joe Bitonio was having a little bit of a rough day, so maybe it was just a 1 week kind of thing where the offensive line just doesn't look like it's supposed to, and they had something similar like that last year or a couple of times last year, once against Baltimore, the other against Pittsburgh. So maybe that's just something that happens. They're just having an up and down day. But yeah, the offense wasn't clicking like you wanted it to click. But when they needed it to click, when the offense needed to get points, when they had their back against the wall, they produced, right? And that's the most important thing, right? You're not going to look great every play of every game. You're not going to be clicking and going on all cylinders every game or every play of every game. But the question isn't how good you look every play. The question is more, when your team needs it, how do you perform? Because the teams that look great all the time but don't perform when their back's against the wall, those teams mean nothing. But if you're a team that when you need it, you can get it, you'll be fine. And that's what the Browns did, right? They needed it before halftime. They put together an excellent drive. Baker was excellent on that drive. They got the touchdown. They did what they had to do there. So when their back was against the wall, when they needed to get points, when they needed to get in field goal range, when they needed to do those things, they were able to do it. So that's what you need to do offensively. It's just it didn't look as crisp or as nice as we're used to seeing it from this offense, which is something, right? We're complaining about the offense not playing well in a game that they won by 20-something points. How times have changed here in Cleveland is definitely on display here in this video. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Myles dominated. We got that cathartic performance from this defense that we have wanted all season so far, and all season's only been 2 weeks, so it's not that cathartic. But it was nice to see Clowney and Myles be able to dominate together. It was nice to see this defense dominate another football team. And I mean, I don't think a Browns defense has dominated another football team like this since they come back in '99. So this was a pure domination on the defensive side of the ball. But we'll see how real some of this is next week, right, when they play a much better offense in the Minnesota Vikings against a much better quarterback, a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins. That's going to be a real test for this defense, but it was nice to see this regardless. But let me know what your thought is. Let me know your thoughts on this win. Who's your player of the game? Who you're giving the game ball to? Is it Kareem Hunt? Is it Myles Garrett? Is there somebody who had an excellent game that I didn't get to mention in this video? Let me know in the comment section down below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day and have a good night.